Do you have a completely abandoned sewing machine locked up in your garage or storage room and no one ever dared to touch it because they feel too intimidated to use it? Or you do have a working sewing machine, but you lost the user's manual and now you don't know how to use it? Well, I'm going to save your time by teaching you the simplified steps on how to set up your sewing machine so that you don't have to spend hours researching on how to use it. Well, keep in mind that not all sewing machines are designed the same, but you can still apply the same steps that I'm going to teach you to any kind of sewing machine. I apologize that my face is off the camera right now, but I'm going to quickly explain the parts of the sewing machine where you need to thread your thread through. So as you can see, this is the spool. This is where you place your thread, and make sure that when you're placing your thread, make sure that it's going counterclockwise. And then you lock it in place with this. I'm not too sure what this is called, but this is gonna prevent the thread from falling off when you're sewing. And there should be numbers labeled on sewing machine, but do not panic if your sewing machine is not labeled with numbers. I'm going to teach you how to thread it. So take your thread and put it through the thread guide and down this hook and down the slot tension and up to the take-up lever and down to the needle and through the eye of the needle. So I'll show you right now. So I changed the camera angle so that you can see the better look of the whole sewing machine. So you take the thread, you put it through the thread guide. You should hear somewhat of a click, like that, and through the hook, down the tension slot, and up the take-up lever. And if you don't see the take-up lever, you can just turn the balancing wheel toward you like this, and the hook appears. Make sure it's hooked, and then down to the eye of the needle, and you're good to go. So now that you've learned how to thread your sewing machine, you need to learn how to thread your bobbin, which is this. You're going to put it in the bobbin compartment. Now, do not be alarmed if your bobbin compartment doesn't look the same as mine. Every sewing machine has their own kinds of bobbin compartment. My bobbin compartment is right underneath the dog feeder, you're going to see. And yours may be visible right under here, but it doesn't really matter how it looks like. We can just still apply the same steps. So I'm just going to show you. If you have a similar bobbin compartment as mine, you could just simply take this off and then open this little flap and take off the bobbin case where we will put this in. So I'm just going to show you that up close real quick. So you've got your bobbin case and your bobbin thread. So you have to place your bobbin thread onto the bobbin case like this. Take the thread and through this crack and squeeze it through like this. And then make sure that it's going counterclockwise. And then you will need to put it inside the bobbin compartment and close it. And that is how you thread your bobbin. So now that you have threaded your sewing machine and the bobbin thread, the final step is to hook up your thread to the bobbin thread. So in order to do that, hold on to the thread, take the balancing wheel and turn it towards you so that the needle can go up and down to hook up the bobbin thread. And there, take a pencil or a stick or a scissor, anything will work, slide it through, and there you go, you have the bobbin thread. Basics of setting up a sewing machine, it's time to sew. So you will need to turn on the switch first, and you will see that the light bulb will turn on. And you will have to, you see this lever? You will have to put that down, put your fabric in, put it down, and then press on the pedal. And you will see that there's a little hook thing over here, and that is where you cut your thread. And there you have it. So before we finish up, I want to show you guys some of the essential parts of the sewing machine that you will be needing to know. So this is called the reverse stitch lever. If you put it down, it will reverse back, and if you let it go, it'll reverse forward. So that is basically going to help you lock the stitch so the stitch will not ravel. And here is the dials. I will show that to you up close on camera. Up here is the tension dial and the length dial, where you will be adjusting the tension and the length of your preference depending on what kind of project you are working on. But you will be mostly needing it to be on 3. That will be fine. And the length of the stitches, it is up to you depending on what kind of project you are working on. First important thing to keep in mind when you're about to sew is to always put the lever down before you're about to sew. You want to keep the presser foot down against the fabric to keep the fabric nice and steady. If the lever is up while you're stitching or sewing, your stitches will be messed up. I promise you, I guarantee that it will go squiggling around. And secondly, make sure that nothing is blocking the ventilator unless you want to damage your sewing machine. Lastly, always switch your light off when you're not using your sewing machine, because this should be self-explanatory, because you don't want to waste your light bulb. And congratulations, you know how to set up a sewing machine and the basics of the sewing machine. I hope that this video had helped you a lot and it wasn't too confusing. And by the end of the quarantine, you will become a sewing pro as well. Bye!